what was your inspiration for creating this film?
The inspiration was looking at kind of old silent thrillers and horrors. We looked at some Hitchcock, some Weimar era things, and we just really wanted to make a silent horror film, but one that was set in the modern day. It was set in color, and obviously we used a little bit of dialogue there. And we ended up kind of looking at Michael Powell's Peeping Tom as a big inspiration for the characters and making it in general. And we just kind of wanted to explore our kind of love for violence in the media today, and just kind of figure out a good way to touch on
that. So Wanted Again is a kind of a climactic moment from a musical that I wrote. Having a piece of visual content is very helpful when you're trying to explain or pitch a musical, especially something that, has the tap dancing and the looping, and some people don't understand looping, or if you're just listening to it, you're like, why is that happening over and over and over again? And then having the visual element is helpful. But in that moment of the show, the main character, Paul, he is able to kind of assimilate these two parts of himself. He's very torn between being a singer-songwriter and kind of doing this Fred Astaire-esque tap dance thing. So he's able to marry these two moments and kind of step into a very authentic version of himself.
I wrote In the Gray after finding out that my father, who I'd been estranged from most of my life, had been living under the Williamsburg Bridge in an encampment and had essentially been beaten to death. So I told the story from the perspective of the three emotions that I had, which was anger, just sort of also a part of me that felt nothing. And so that was the character that I played, where it was, shouldn't I feel something, but I don't really know this person, but it was a violent death. And so there was also that sadness in the person that I did know growing up. And so my husband and I are a film team. And so I just decided to write this story to sort of tell that perspective of having those three emotions and being conflicted, and whether I should be sad or angry, or whether I really owed anything at all.
We had a lot of young people yesterday talk about how they used film to process like what they were feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, for sure.
For me, for the piece that I wrote, it was really about trying to reconcile some of the disparity or seeming disparity between the arts and something more technical or more sophisticated or practical in a lot of ways. We've all been there. I'm sure everyone in this room has a lot of experience about overcoming some sort of adversity, whether from internal or external conflict of that desire to pursue creativity. So the theme is really about, what do you do with that goal to pursue the arts? Is it practical? Is it functional? And it's really revolving around creativity is kind of the parent figure in a lot of ways to both the fine arts and something like science or more technical, innovative pursuits and whatnot. Because really creativity is just about problem solving, whether you're doing it visually through some sort of artistic field, or if you're doing it in the med field or technology or whatever it might be. So trying to kind of explore that dynamic a little bit more.
You know, when you go online and you are looking for a recipe and you find 10 paragraphs before you get to the list of ingredients? So I recommend reading those sometimes, because food is so important to everybody. And usually in that you get a good story as to like why I love that recipe and why I cook. And Pizza Dreams is just my version of sharing why I love cooking and why I love my favorite recipe.
So the short was based on a date that I had about 15 years ago. Nothing really came out of it, but I wanted to make a boring story with two black people in it. Where I think that black, brown, and Asian people don't have a lot of like boring stories where you don't have to be a superhero. Just it was a really kind date, and it's also like a thank you to women, because I have these extraordinary sort of casual experiences where people are really nice to me without knowing much about me, and typically women. And they typically do something really kind that I'm almost like moved to tears about. And this woman that I met in the first half an hour cleaned out my wallet, and it was like nuts. And a 61-year-old woman really did try to sleep with me. So.
Hold up. She cleaned out your wallet like she robbed you? Or
No, the short's about. No. It's my wallet was like a Costanza wallet. The real version, the cleaning took about an hour in the real life, but I just took the items, the real items.
She literally just organized.
Yeah, she organized, therefore organizing my life, and that's kind of, it's like a thank you to these interactions that I've had with women that were very similar. So.
The politician, the idea originated while I was doing some research on movement. I was just improvising and this song came up. But originally the idea was with like this idea of the Vatican and people in low incomes, they keep asking for money and for donations and stuff. So it's like doesn't make sense. But I didn't want it to sound like it was a criticism to religion. So that's why I changed it to a politician.
I mean, it's applicable across the board.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, people with money often don't give it to those who need it.
Yeah, and they just keep asking for more.
So sorry.
Oh, I'm hiding. Hot Idiot started as a silly joke in my notes app. What is the reverse of the rom-com trope? She was dowdy until she took her glasses off. What's the straight girl version of that? I'm like, well, I guess it would be he's mean, but then he's sensitive. So it started as a silly joke, and then during the pandemic, I had nothing else to do, so I had some great friends and actors who helped me workshop and tease that idea out. And I love a good rom-com, and I love it's important to me too to center love interests of people of color as well, like a boring story. So that was the inspiration. Yeah.
Not boring though.
Yeah.
So I know some of you, at least, and I know you have day jobs, if you will. Like, so how do you what do you do kind of in your outside life, outside of film?
Yeah.
And how do you balance your interests in film with that?
I am a parent, a mother of 2 real children who one of them made a cameo in this. So that's one of my day jobs. And then another one is I narrate audiobooks, which is a good fit for an actor and a writer. I get to, unless I have to time my sessions with a live director and a sound engineer, I can do it on my own. The downside then is I have like 10 voices in my head. I have to be director and sound engineer and an actor and, the technician at the same time. But
How do you find time to work on your films?
you just make it. You just gotta, when the kids are asleep,
Because I mean, a lot of people often ask me, like, who are the filmmakers in your festival? Like, how do they do this full time? And I'm like, no, most of them do it as passion projects, and that's why I'm asking. So
Yeah.
tell people how you have other things you do. But
yeah, the upside of
you
having
can't not do this.
exactly having to take care of kids all day is my free time is very spare, and I'm actually more productive now. I cherish that free time and I use it probably more wisely than I did prior to having to keep 2 small children alive.
Yes.
Yeah. Plus me.
I work as a server, but I cramp all of my shifts in the weekend, so I have 4 days off where I can just work on my art. Yeah.
I'm an IT professional, married with a 2-year-old. That's actually on my resume. I do stand-up quite a bit and dip into music. But I want to make this like a thing. My first thing I did last year, I was 39. First time touching final draft. First time directing anybody. It was petrifying, and I want to do it again. So.
What was it somebody said last session? The only difference between us and you is like we made a film, so you just have to go make a film.
Right.
So I'm a commercial video editor and VFX artist, so that's why there are 20 VFX shots in a 3-minute film. So that's what I do for my day job. It's mostly commercial stuff, freelance stuff here and there, but this is a film I've wanted to make for a long time, so finding the time for it was really important to me.
Up until recently, I was working as a commercial video producer, so in a marketing sense at a marketing agency, so very full, very busy, but in the video world, I really didn't write or direct much and wasn't doing much within the narrative space, and that's always been the passion, the goal to make time for. So, I have a great network of friends and people who are interested in filmmaking and do it professionally or on the side, yes. And then recently I actually just quit that job and am pursuing narrative and commercial on my own accord. So kind of taking more of a plunge in to try and force time because it's hard to make time. And so for me, sometimes it's a little bit all or nothing. So at this season, kind of going a little bit more full on for it. So.
I guess I would be like the epitome of an indifferent artist. I temp at a library, I teach acting courses, and I'm a baker. And, I've done voiceover work. I make films with my husband, and I have a production company. So, yeah.
I'm a teacher as well. I teach tap dance, and I also teach at PS'122. Yeah, so it was cool seeing the Instagram of all the, if you saw any of the youth films, I saw a lot of my students. So that was cool. I think it's awesome what you guys do there. Yeah, they're awesome.
I'm actually a full-time filmmaker at the moment right now. I produce music videos and commercials mostly. But at the time of making this, I worked in PR and marketing in the film industry, so still within the industry. And actually a lot of people involved with this project are working publicists. And a lot of them can't be here today because they're at a premiere working, so it's pretty cool.
So what was, I guess, your favorite part of making this project?
Favorite part, I guess, just bringing everyone together. You know, it felt really special to involve a lot of folks who were new to filmmaking.
Likewise, I guess on the flip side, what was the most challenging?
Most challenging. Most challenging was probably shooting this in February at night in New York, in Queens actually. Shot in Queens. It was quite cold. It was quite miserable for everyone, but everyone stuck through it. Juan's in the audience here. He was one of the victims in it, and he had to lie in freezing fake blood in a park. So that was.
I thought you were like victim of having to work on. Victim in this.
Both ways, yeah. He was victimized in many ways by this project, but it was a lot of fun, and we all enjoyed it. And I think it brought us closer together, and folks have been interested in working on other projects after that. So it was a lot of fun.
I'm very lucky. I have a very good collaborator on all of this. He's here. His name is Tim Fuchs. He was the man behind the camera for this. He is also the orchestrator for all the music in my musicals. So he's also a good friend. So anytime I get to work with him is good. What would you say? With difficult part? I don't know why our schedules were so weird when we were trying to film this. We filmed it at like 11:30 at night in FD Studios in Long Island City. It was so late. We were so dead. And,
But it worked.
It worked. We did it.
I've been working with my husband for 16 years, and probably the most challenging is always that we have a minimal crew. And so I think our crew is 3, of which my husband was the director, cinematographer, his own gaffer. He was the editor. So that's just kind of how we function. So we had a sound person and we had a PA that was watching the monitor for us for any inconsistencies, but that's it. We wear all the hats ourselves. And so filming is always incredibly stressful. And I don't know if there was anything particular. I mean, probably the Rage Room was tough because we were on a schedule and we did have to pay for that. And so they worked out a plan for us, but we basically had to break as much crap as we could in a short amount of time. And I really underestimated how violent my crew would be in that they weren't. And I was like, if you don't start hitting stuff really hard, I'm going to get pissed because this is costing us so much money, which is why a lot of the more violent hits came for me because I was like, screw it. I've got rage and trauma, as everyone does. Let's do this. So it was fun, but it did hurt. It was really, you feel it the next day. Yeah.
Interesting. Good to know.
I think for me, favorite part was probably, usually I'm more on the logistics side doing producing work. So it's a lot of paperwork, it's a lot of contracts, it's a lot of the logistics. So this time being able to be the writer and director was really unique and interesting to see the story evolve and change at times from really from concept through pre-production and mood boarding and everything, and then going into production. It kind of turns into something else and takes a little bit of its own life there and shape, and then you go into post-production and spend a long time with the editor, and it takes its own shape yet again. So I think that evolution and that process of just seeing the creative process, and letting it kind of lead a little bit was really, really fun and very, it was a great process. I think most challenging, there was a specific day that we were shooting. I think we shot 5 days for this one. And there was a day we were shooting where the script that was coming up after lunch was not working. And my script supervisor and my DP, both very good friends and co-collaborators on making this thing happen, kind of at lunch, we had like 15 minutes left, and they were like, hey, we need to take a look at this. So we just kind of pulled an audible and reworked the script in the moment, which was super scary for me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, but they're right. The script is not working for this next scene we're about to shoot. So I think that was one of the challenges that came up that ended up being really good. And I'm really glad we leaned into it rather than just stick with crappy script. So, yeah.
I'll tell you about my favorite part of the filmmaking process here. So the old man you see in my video is my great-grandfather. Called him Poppy. I'm named after him, which is a really big thing for me. And that in the film it's true. Like, when he died, I stopped cooking for about 4 years because he was my, strongest male role model. And even, for a man who was 103 years old when he died, it still feels like you get hit by a truck. So I feel like, I wanted to make something that talked about how I felt about in the moment and how I feel now. And when I was writing it, I realized I'm kind of happy when I think about him now.
So what was the question again?
What was something that you enjoyed about making the project and something that was challenging?
Okay, something I enjoyed, just having it happen. It's a strange, surreal feeling that I think that you all should experience. Writing something down and having it happen in front of you. It's the strangest feeling in the world. That's one. 2 problems I had while shooting. There was an incredible homeless woman that sweeps right where we're shooting. It's in a public place. I'm from Baltimore. We shot in Baltimore. So in the bottom left-hand corner, you could kind of see when we shot it, she was like sweeping. And then when we started shooting and you could see people talking, she would knock on the window and ask for water. We gave her some water, but she pretty much harassed us the entire time. But it worked out. I kind of think she was like a fairy godmother because it wound up turning out really extraordinary. We wound up reframing the whole shot based on where she was sweeping, and it turned out better. Yeah, it's strange. So I thank her.
Interesting.
Yeah.
The film fairies were trying to reposition you.
Yeah, sure.
Something I enjoyed a lot was seeing everything come together. This has been my biggest project, so seeing everything fall in place was really satisfying. As for the challenges, I guess it depends on which part of the process. I have challenges came up each step.
They always come up.
Yeah. So choreography-wise, it was dancing with the head in the back and not being able to see anything because of the hat. That was really interesting. During the shooting, because I was dancing and directing, it took a lot of time and it was exhausting. By the end of the 2 days of shoot that we had, I was falling asleep while eating. Yeah. And during the editing, I actually did my own makeup with a ball cap, and it was terrible. So I had to blur out all of the lines. So it took me like a month. So that was fun. Yeah.
It's definitely challenging.
Yeah.
Most fun, I think, for me, I've written for theater before, but not for film, and it was really rewarding to see my written word then interpreted by a director and a DP who made it better and funnier, and to write this thing and have someone draw a storyboard for you. And I felt so embarrassed because I was laughing at the story that I wrote, but not really, because it's reflected, someone has translated it from words into a visual story. And then little delights in collaboration, like our DP who's here tonight suggested the curtain to show the under the desk world, which at the time I was like, well, I don't know. And I'm like, you know what, just trust them. Let's see what happens. And now the film, I think that world would not be as clear. It just made such a difference. So those were some really fun moments of seeing what's my work reflected and magnified and made more beautiful by the people I chose to work with, including the actors. The hardest part was finishing. Finishing. Everyone you got cheap, fast, good, pick two, right? So you can guess which two we picked. It took a long time to finish this. Hopefully it was good.
Starting with Catherine and back again, since we work with a lot of youth and people who want to make film in general who haven't made a film yet, what would a piece of advice you would give to someone wanting to make a film?
Watch films and keep a little notebook of the moments that spark you. I had an acting teacher who said, be a magpie. Wherever you see a shiny object, it doesn't even have to be in film. Maybe it's in theater, you're walking through life. If there's something that you see that makes you feel like a magpie seeing something shiny, write it down, jot it down, stick it in, collect them, That's my piece of advice. And then start from there. So when you start, you have this pile of junk that inspires you from all these different sources.
I have a folder of clips that I literally film the television. Just to make it as quick and simple as possible.
Yeah, there you go. You're magpieing.
I guess I'm completely self-taught. I did a lot of YouTube research and just reading and stuff. So I would say do the research, but also don't stay in only theory, because doing it feels so different from just hearing about it. It's easy to understand when you're hearing about it, but once you actually do it, it's way harder, and you need a lot of practice to keep improving.
Something somebody never said to me when I was starting, it can be really lonely. In the middle of it, sometimes people don't believe in it. Sometimes they put that fear on you, and it can feel really lonely. So you may be in the middle of saying something oh, it's about this, and they're like, I've seen 20 things that look like this, but that you should know that your voice is important, and you can make something that's unique. And I got a lot of doubt. I mean, honestly, it was that's hurtful and lonely, because at every step, people were like, I don't think you can do it, or oh, okay, everybody says they're gonna make a film, or oh, TikTok, or you know what I mean? It's so get used to that. It can be a little lonely. Doesn't mean you're gonna be alone forever, but there are moments of loneliness for sure.
You should make the film that you're passionate about tell the story that's important to you, because even if you when you're watching it, you can tell, and when you're making it, you're having fun.
I would say two things come to mind, and the first is just keep notes, whether it's on your phone or go home when inspiration hits. It's it turns on and you don't know when it's going to come sometimes, so take notes about commercials you like, artistic things that inspire you, anything that you can jot it down and kind of find your way back to that moment. And then number two is don't wait for the perfect, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and I think that's the biggest killer of just getting started doing something, is waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect script or the perfect this or that, and then years can go by and you're never actually doing the thing and learning and crafting. The first number of things that you make are probably not going to be perfect. They may not even be that good, but you're doing it. And the more you do it, the more you get better at it and enjoy the process along the way.
You have to be bad before you're good.
Oh, geez, there's been so many things that, I always say that I hate whatever I've made 5 seconds after I've made it. I'm sick of a movie before we've even gone into editing because we've been part of pre and then going through everything. And so I have a habit of sitting down and watching my performances at least once thoroughly from someone else's perspective. I make notes of what I liked, what I didn't like, what I should do, what I shouldn't do again. I guess priorities as well. My husband and I didn't have a wedding. We don't have wedding rings because we have lenses. We could spend money on a wedding. We can spend money on rings. I'm divorced already. The ring did nothing the first marriage, so I clearly don't need it the second time. So, that was just kind of how we functioned, and we just had a little party, and the rest went into our production company. I guess being a baker, I always thought of films like wedding cakes, and I don't want to cut through 3 inches of fondant to get to a store-bought cake.
I love that.
And so for me, it's like, gear is great and it's wonderful, and we say this to anybody who's getting into it. Gear is great, it's lovely, but if the story's not compelling, if the actors are not pulling an audience in, and if I can't hear it, it doesn't matter. So your audio, your story, your performances. If you have Cook lenses, great. If you have access to an ARRI, great. If you don't, work with what you have. Learn how to light to the equipment that you have, because we've won competitions on really basic cameras because my husband spent 14 years lighting a scene and people thought it was filmed on something better. It's really tedious and it makes you want to rip your hair out, but every piece of equipment can be worked with. I think a lot of people focus too much on I filmed this on a Red. That's great, but you used basic lenses and it looks like it was filmed on a phone, so it didn't do anything. It's just, if you're compelling people, we can hear it. That's what's most important.
I think once you have that initial idea, kind of going along with what you were saying, like once you have that initial idea, surround yourself with people who you trust and be open to what they bring to the table. Because I think, like you said, it could be lonely, and I think doubts can come from both sides. It can either you could doubt yourself, or other people can be doubting you, and then you kind of have to have that balance. So hopefully you have people around you who can reflect back to you the things you want reflected back to you. And I think when they do that, believe them. The first time they say it, don't wait for them to say it 4, 5, 6 times. I'm like, all right, I guess you really do like this. I guess you really do believe in it. So listen to them the first time.
All right. I'll have to agree with Catherine, right, Catherine? Just watch movies. Watch as many movies as you can, as often as you can. It's the best way to learn. And also try to build a community. If you're young and getting into film, try to find like-minded people that can help you grow, help you make films, and try to build a self-sufficient community. I feel like that's something that I'm very blessed to have. When we're working on a new project, we have someone who's going to do sound, we have someone who's going to light it, someone who's going to shoot it, someone who has the camera equipment. We can borrow things here and there, and you end up not spending as much money as you would usually, and you're learning from them. They're always on set working on other projects, and you're constantly learning, and it's the best advice I've ever received, and I was happy to follow it.